I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the biggest unsolved mystery everyone is talking about: the tragic abduction of Nancy Guthrie. How is it even possible, with all the attention and all the resources, that nearly 4 weeks after the abduction, no one's been arrested and Nancy is still missing? Here's the story. The case had already gripped the nation when another development surfaced: ransom letters referencing specific details from inside the home of Nancy Guthrie. Nancy vanished from her Tucson home overnight. Authorities believe she was taken against her will. Blood confirmed to be hers was found outside, but was she taken for ransom? Surveillance video shows a masked individual at the residence during the night and early morning hours. Investigators are analyzing communications that claim knowledge of the disappearance, while the family tries to entice someone with information to come forward. They've offered $1 million. The FBI is involved, and for Nancy's family, the agonizing wait continues. Okay, so, the investigation continues. We're getting little bits and pieces from the sheriff. Sometimes you get a little nugget here, a little nugget there, getting an idea of what's happening. But then you've got all this media that is covering this. And sometimes the media is uncovering something that no one has seen before. So let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. And there's a lot of buzz. There's some new ring video everyone is talking about. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, new video, Vinny, and it's seeming to be pretty crucial in this investigation. It's new video obtained by Fox News Digital showing multiple cars going past a neighbor that lives near Nancy Guthrie's house. Now, we're going to play a portion of that video. The video has timestamps on it. You're going to hear cars go by at precisely 12:46 a.m., 2:31 a.m., and 2:36 a.m. on the morning that Nancy Guthrie went missing. Now, I want to warn our viewers, there are periods of silence between each car going by. This home is about 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house. Let's take a look at that video now, obtained by Fox News Digital. All right, Vinny, you saw 2 cars go one way, 1 car come back the other way. Let's break this video down a little bit. But one thing to note about the video, it's important to note that authorities apparently did not have this video up until yesterday when this neighbor gave it to them. And this video also shows 12 more cars in its entirety. The entirety of the video, it shows 12 cars total going by this camera between midnight and 6 a.m. the morning that Nancy Guthrie went missing. But let's focus on the car that came by at 2:36 a.m. This is crucial because we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her cell phone at 2:28 a.m. this same morning. So 2:28 a.m., 2:36, 8 minutes later, 2.5 miles away, this car would reasonably fit into the timeline of Nancy's abduction. Now, that's important. But what also is important is that 2 hours before, at 12:46 a.m., we see a similar car going in the opposite direction. And you see there we have a split between the 12:46 car and the 2:36 car. They look like similar colors. Of course, it's black and white, but they look like lighter colored cars. They kind of have the same build here. One looks as if it could be coming. One looks as if it could be going. That's what this could imply here, also fitting in that window of time where Nancy Guthrie, got abducted. Now, we also have a map here, Vinny, a map of the believed path from Nancy's house to where this ring camera picked these cars up. We can see that it kind of shows a way to avoid main roads and leave the area of Nancy's neighborhood. But again, Vinny, we have more pictures here. Here's a better look at that car at 2:36 a.m. from 3 different instances. You see it there. The cactus are kind of in the way, but you can kind of see it. Lighter colored car, looks to be some kind of crossover SUV. This could be an interesting development as this investigation continues.
Really interesting. this is the kind of stuff you expect like early on in the case. All right, thanks so much, Cody, sticking around the whole hour. That brings us to the first question in our investigation. Is Nancy Guthrie in one of those cars? One of those cars caught on camera 2.5 miles from Nancy's house in those early morning hours. Joining me to help answer that question, retired police commander, host of Apple Podcast's #1 news show, Gardens of Evil, Inside the Zion Society Cult. Mike King is here. Also with us, private investigator, safety and security expert, author of Prepared, Not Scared, Bill Stanton. All right, great to have you, Mike. Congratulations. Amazing work as always.
Thanks, Vinnie.
And we know that money is going to help others in that big project you're doing. So that's another important part of it. So please support it, folks. All right, Mike, is it possible Nancy Guthrie is in one of those cars and is caught on that Ring camera?
Yeah, absolutely, it's possible, Vinny. I think the thing that I'm starting to think about now is I started looking at the roads and network, the street network from that location. If we take the video that Cody just provided from Fox, it shows two vehicles that, if I'm understanding the location of that home, and I think I've got it dialed in, those two vehicles would have been heading northbound, or could essentially be saying they're heading toward Nancy's house, because this road system that we're showing and that we've shown in that little clip you had really only gives you one way up in there if you're going up this street. Now, there's a couple little side streets, but that leaves one vehicle at 236 heading southbound or past that location. And this is what really got me intrigued. And so I started putting all of this onto a map today, video, and I started thinking about the actual course of travel. So here we're seeing that vehicle heading southbound in that third vehicle that we're looking at. So the question becomes, why this area? Because really, there's no reason to be traveling into this area unless you're going to a destination, because you can see the road network just doesn't let you go any other way. Now, it does go past where that glove was found weeks earlier. But if they were heading south, they'd take a much more direct route. If they were going east, a much more direct route north and west. So we see this thing really starting to dial in. And from my perspective, as one who always looks at geography as part of crime and the behaviors, is why this location, why this spot, if that thing is somehow tied to this case. I think it kind of reduces the probability that it's tied, unless they happen to have suspects who live in that area where we've got why here on the map.
All right, Bill, what are your thoughts? Could Nancy Guthrie be in one of those cars that's caught on camera?
Well, before I give you my answer, my first thought would be, how do we compare apples to apples? Has that camera picked up cars with such frequency in the past at that time? Do cars normally go by at 2:30 in the morning, and what's the frequency? Now I'll tell you, I think it's probable, because we see the car coming in at 12 and change. It lines up with both times. I do believe it's that car, and I do think it's with more than one person.
Explain that. When you say more than one person, why, Bill?
Well, let's look at it both ways. You're dealing with an elderly person, right? You're shaking them awake, more than likely. Or if the person came down, they're going to be startled. They're either going to have a heart attack or they're going to freak out. Having one person to handle all that, getting them dressed, if you will, or just taking them out of their pajamas, it's very unwieldy. Now, again, this person is elderly. Are you going to knock them out, or are you going to bind them and take them? I think this job is more than a one-person job. And when in earlier shows, when we looked at that video, to me, it just feels like this person was given directions, like a blueprint. This is what I need you to look at. Get acclimated. I don't think the person on the video is the main and only person. That's just my years of experience doing this. I just don't see it as a one-man job.
How about you, Mike? How are you evaluating that aspect of this, right? Because you could have a wheel person, you could have an inside person, an outside person. There's a lot of different configurations, but is this a one-person deal or multi?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Phil that it appears that it would be multiple people just to be able to manage and get Nancy loaded into a vehicle. And this is where I guess the probabilities start to slide for me, Vinny, because if that pacemaker device disconnects at roughly 2:30, and the car is passing at 2:36. When I look at the street network, it's about a 6-minute drive. Now, yeah, they could be kicking it in the rear and really driving fast, or they could be right on the cusp of a timeline that's kind of hard to explain, because that means they're going to have to get her in that vehicle and out of there. And that's where I'd want to test that pacemaker device to see how far it can actually reach that cell phone inside the home to determine, could she have been in the street getting loaded into a vehicle or even in the driveway and still connected to that mobile device before the disconnect occurs? Because that's the critical timeline.
Yeah, that and you know, I have my own experience with a glucometer that uses sort of the same technology, and I'm telling you, there are times I could be in just different rooms in the house and it disconnects from my phone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sensitive that way. And that's a big part of the timeline. Bill Stanton, great to have you on the program. Great to see you, my friend. Mike King sticking around. Coming up next, how did police miss this?
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
We just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect.
They don't have a suspect. They haven't had a suspect, but they have a suspect, right? The guy on the video, but you don't know who he is. So he's not a named suspect. He's someone who you're trying to figure out an identity of. Extremely frustrating for everyone, and obviously for investigators, and heartbreaking for the family, all at the same time. Let's bring back in Cody Thomas. So this video, could be huge, right? It could be nothing. We understand that, but it could be huge. And how has law enforcement now responded to this new video?
Well, they are taking it seriously now after it was not initially on their radar. And in fact, according to reporting by Fox News Digital, Vinny, it says, quote, the homeowners Elias and Danielle Strategoulias told Fox News Digital that police had not canvassed their neighborhood in the 25 days since Guthrie is believed to have been taken from her bed in a home invasion kidnapping. The FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department have been alerted to the video. It was not immediately clear whether the video is of any use to the investigation or whether the vehicle had ever been on Guthrie's street. Now, Vinny, important to remember, early on in the investigation, law enforcement set up this search radius of around 2 miles in either direction from Nancy Guthrie's house. This house where the cars were picked up on this new video was about 2.5 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house, so just outside the radius. Now, the Pima County Sheriff's Department also put out their own statement regarding this video. It says, investigators are actively reviewing surveillance video of vehicles traveling in the Catalina Foothills area, including areas farther from the Guthrie residence. We have asked homeowners in the surrounding community to submit any relevant footage and encourage anyone who has not yet done so to please share video. Now, we also have this video from News Nation's Brian Inton showing law enforcement activity at that neighbor's house yesterday as well. This is the neighbor where the new video was caught on their cameras of those 12 cars coming by, specifically that car at 2:36 a.m. So it seems again, Vinnie, that they're taking things seriously, but they're clearly still leaning on public support, as they should.
Yeah, they've been asking for the help from the public, although at this point they are trying to shoo everybody away from the house and out of the neighborhood. All right, so police didn't know about it. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. How did police miss this? How did they miss this? Still with me, Mike King, joining us. Expert private investigator, president and owner of Martinelli Investigations, Robin Martinelli, joins the conversation. Robin, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts here? How did police miss this video?
Well, thanks for having me on. It's such a pleasure. You know, the police can start from neighbors all the way out and all the way in with their Ring camera, usually the last 30 days, and we're coming up on our 28th day. But here in Georgia, they have flock cameras. So they're license plate reader cameras. So I don't know why they're not researching the license plate readers cameras. Private investigators can do that. Also, like Walmart, the banks, the Quick Trips, we don't know where this person came from. So doing all that traffic to get there would help a lot. But I'm hoping that they went door to door and every door for 100 doors to see if anything was suspicious 2 weeks before and during and 2 weeks after, and showing this picture to everybody. I mean, you never know.
Let me ask you, Mike, how did they miss this video that Fox News Digital got from the neighbor? The neighbor said no one ever came by there. It's 2.5 miles away. I get it, but we're almost 4 weeks in.
You know, Vinny, I guess I've got to try to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here, because we played the video just a moment ago of law enforcement asking people to send them their video. Well, rather than pointing a finger and saying, why haven't police been here in 25 days? Why is this video sitting in a house waiting for police for 25 days instead of alerting them immediately up front? And there might be a whole bunch of reasons, and they just discovered this. But regardless, I think these kinds of stones can be casted both ways. And I think it's really important to keep in mind, and I can't tell you how many investigations I later said, oh, why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I do that? But law enforcement has to start first, right at the nexus of where things are occurring, and start casting the net broader and broader. You know, I created another map to kind of help me understand this, because I was really troubled by this whole thing as well. And Robin's right, but it's a lot more than 100 houses. It's more like 16 or 1,700 households just in this footprint that I've created. And the footprint that you see on the map, Vinny, is based on, again, the road network. So I think that's a whole lot more important than just drawing a circle and saying, hey, we're going to search for 2 miles or 3 miles. And when you start looking at it a little more geographically and start focusing in, then it's easier to start putting some things in play. And it made me think back to a serial killer case in San Francisco that I helped the agency work on, where we just created a simple app that everybody who was saying, I've checked this house or I've knocked on this doorknob, sometimes people aren't at home, but it showed on the map where the vacancies were, where the homes were that weren't touched. And it also is something that can start driving the investigation rather than constantly having to react to it, which is kind of what it feels like right now.
Yeah, the frustrating part for me is twofold. One, they are now shooing the media away, but it was the media, Fox News Digital. They do great work, and they have boots on the ground, but they don't have 500 boots on the ground. You know, they've got their team, their little team there. And this little team, Robin, uncovered this video, which may or may not be extremely relevant to all this, but the hundreds of boots on the ground from law enforcement didn't. And I don't know why the public didn't approach the police, but we know at some point there's a connection between the media and this family, Fox News and this family, and it just seems like you shouldn't get scooped by Fox News in uncovering ringed video in this case. If you're law enforcement, if you're the FBI, if you're Pima County, are you as shocked as I am?
Well, a lot of times private investigators are brought in at this time. Like my colleague can tell you that we have to ask the police, is it okay to investigate? Is it okay to knock on these doors? So what I always do with my team is I'll go in and ask the captain or the sheriff, what can we do and what can't we do? Because, you know, in Georgia, we're able to put trackers on cars. So my theory would be, we'll do anything you want us to do not to interfere with the investigation, make it more canvassing, bring some dogs out, pass out some flyers, have a tip line. But also, she was not well. So if you have a person that's not well, like I'm an amputee, and if I don't go past my blood thinners, I probably wouldn't be here. So who's to say that they haven't tried to get her medication somewhere else or tried to treat her heart in any way, saying she's somebody else? And that medication can possibly, my medication could be, you know, trans, because it's, you know, it's a blood thinner that's a Pradaxa, because I don't have my left leg. And in doing that, you know, I have to have it. So the pharmacy and then Walmart, the banks, there's so many good cameras out there that even past 30 days, Quick Trip, Kroger, are just really good cameras. And, you know, private investigators can help.
Absolutely. Robin Martinelli, thank you so much. Mike King, thank you. Gardens of Evil, make sure you download it, folks. Still to come, is the suspect carrying a walkie-talkie? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a story that has so far baffled Pima County investigators and the FBI. Yet, when you look at the suspect on Nancy's porch wearing his Walmart outfit, he appears incredibly unsophisticated. It's just not making any sense. Here's the story. Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is no longer just a local case, it is a national mystery. The 84-year-old Tucson resident was last seen on Saturday, January 31st. By Sunday, she was gone. Investigators declared her home a crime scene, citing evidence that she did not leave voluntarily. Blood identified as hers was located outside. Surveillance footage revealed a masked figure on the property. Security systems were disabled. The FBI joined the investigation. Ransom letters surfaced publicly, yet no suspect has been identified, no confirmed proof of life released. As the search intensifies, the family is now offering $1 million for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie. The search for this masked man has taken on a life of its own. And the video, the existence of the video has changed the nature of a lot of this. And everyone who is online in this true world universe that we live in on social media is picking apart that video frame by frame, looking for something. And it seems every day there is chatter about something else that someone is seeing or someone has a theory about. So I want to bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, because there's been a lot of chatter online about a potential walkie-talkie. What have you heard?
Yeah, yet again, the online sleuths, the general public, they have dissected that video of the suspect on the front porch down to a T, now focusing on the area that looks like it's to be around his jacket pocket. Now, this TikTok was posted by user JW Mancuso Marketing. Take a listen to this theory.
They did do a close-up of the video that they have released on the porch, and it does look like the top of a walkie-talkie in his pocket, along with the gun in the holster and the cell phone, which we do believe he turned off cellular data and Wi-Fi.
All right, so let's take a closer look. Now, we've slowed the video down here. You see the suspect doing the thing that we've seen for the past few weeks, hand over the camera there. Then he starts to turn, and that's where we start slowing the video down. Now, focus there on his jacket pocket, like on the suspect's right below where his hand is. You see the strap obviously coming from the book bag. It looks like something is hanging out of that pocket or near that jacket pocket. Now, we've isolated a still image here with an arrow pointing to that area. I'm gonna bring it up here in a second after we watch this. Here we are. See the arrow pointing to the area near his jacket pocket there, pointing toward the alleged object that might be hanging out of the pocket. Now, to me, that doesn't really look like the butt of a walkie-talkie, but it could be a string hanging off something else that's further in his pocket, maybe a walkie-talkie. But to me, it looks like it could be like the little reflective cloth that hangs off the edge of a zipper that's pulled down if that's a zip-up pocket on that jacket. Now, we also have another angle of this area of the jacket, the pocket area. Now, the blue arrow is pointing to what we know to be the strap hanging from the backpack, but the red arrow is pointing to the area of the pocket. And again, to me, it looks like the colored, maybe dark colored lining of a zip-up pocket with the zipper hanging down. And Vinny, we also have another slow-mo angle of the video, again, playing out in real time. We zoomed in just a little bit more. Let's take another look with our viewers here as he turns. You see the strap, you see the pocket. It's not entirely clear, of course. To me, it doesn't feel like a walkie-talkie. It kind of feels like something may be in his pocket, but it does seem like that thing hanging out could be the zipper. But that's just me.
Right, and it's, you look at it, and it depends on the size of it, right? I looked at it, and it looked like it was almost the same size, maybe even smaller than the strap that was hanging down. And that would be way too small. You've got that fish lens camera that's taking the picture that can distort sizes of things, but very interesting. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Everyone's talking about it. Is the suspect carrying a walkie-talkie? Because if he's got a walkie-talkie, that takes us to a whole nother place in the discussion of what's going on there that night. Here to help with our investigation, former homicide detective and host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Chris McDonough is with us. Also joining us, missing person, private investigator, search and rescue pilot, and ground search technician, Steve Fisher. All right, Chris, I know you've looked at every frame. You've blown it up, you've zoomed it in, you've done everything you can. What are your thoughts on this theory that we are hearing now that he's carrying a walkie-talkie?
Two things, Vinny. Number one is I'm going with what Cody just laid out here. And that was my impression, too, that it could have been something as simple of just even the tag on the side of the zipper there, or excuse me, on the side of the jacket. The second thing is if it is a walkie-talkie, then it's going to be difficult to utilize that tool because he's got those big gloves on. And that goes right back to him even having the gun as well, to use that gun. So, the idea that he is as sophisticated to, now carry into this high-profile situation a communication device, I'm just not seeing it right now personally.
Steve Fisher, your thoughts on the chatter regarding a potential walkie-talkie that some people believe that they see in this video?
Yeah, so I've seen chatter about what you're talking about, and also people are pointing out like a black kind of cylinder-shaped item hanging out of the pocket, and I don't think it's a walkie-talkie. I think there could be a small like a mini mag flashlight in his pocket or something. But like Chris just said, it would, whether you're wearing an earpiece or you're using the unit itself to operate the push-to-talk with those gloves is going to be virtually impossible. And also, just like you said, even the same with the gun. You couldn't get that finger in the trigger guard. So I don't know what his point was, but no, I don't think it's a. You would have seen the wire running from the unit up to like an earpiece or something, and so I don't believe it is.
So, Chris, a couple things here. The whole notion of a walkie-talkie, and you're thinking about, well, why would you do that? Well, you wouldn't want to use your cell phone, right? Most people are sophisticated enough to realize you don't use your cell phone. Is a walkie-talkie, that doesn't leave any sort of a trail or a footprint or a digital print anywhere afterwards, does it?
No, not instantaneously like that, right? Push to talk or something to that effect. It's a very low frequency, and the type of frequency, obviously, that the feds would want to, pick up on, from the CAS team is something with cellular, because it's constantly bouncing off of a tower. This particular device wouldn't be doing that unless you press the button.
So, Steve, if there are more than one person involved, right? There's more than one, and one is a potential wheelman, right? Who's got the car and is going to pull the car up or something. There wouldn't really be a way for them to communicate, would there?
Well, so if you did have, say, a small mini mag flashlight, you could signal somebody with that. Because in that darkness, you're going to see everything. But also, it could just be like, listen, this is the plan. Stay here. I'm going to come to you, and maybe he carries her, or they have some, who knows? But I'm sure there's other ways. Obviously, they don't want to bring the cell phones. Listen, I think it's dangerous, even if they're using a walkie-talkie, because these are not law enforcement, simplex channels. These are open to anybody. So anybody that has those, and you'd be surprised out in the desert communities how many people use those. Their kids play with them and stuff, and they're scanning the channels. So if somebody starts talking, it's going to pick it up, and it just takes one person to hear some strange, communication and unravel everything.
Yeah. Chris, where are you on the vehicle and how? Because we don't see a vehicle. I haven't seen I haven't seen anyone show me a vehicle in any view from this video. So, what are your thoughts about where is the car? Where could it be? And does it require a second person, or could this guy solo have the car in some other location that we don't see?
Well, there's two possibilities, right? And I agree with what Steve just said. I mean, it was a great observation that once you press that, everybody in the environment's going to hear that. So the car itself, I mean, let's say this guy, that one picture, these are two separate nights, right? So that means this individual is at least got some type of pre-planning taking place before the event goes down. So where it could be parked in that neighborhood, you would have to be very familiar with that neighborhood, knowing that none of the neighbors would be coming home and seeing, the strange vehicle parked pre-incident. They had to have some type of transportation to get her out of there. Or again, the sad part in this possibly is the fact that they were searching, the back, the septic system and that kind of problem. So remember, you don't look for people traveling in vehicles in septic systems. So that's kind of a red flag in of itself. But I'm hoping there was a car involved, because that really does open up the possibilities.
Absolutely. Our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, are the conditions of the family's reward unusual?
We will not rest. Your children will not rest.
You know the drill.
Be there when it pops.
Get to it.
We'll get this guy.
Like we always do.
It's gonna be fun. Then let's get it on. I love this team. Find Ion on your channel guide or favorite streaming service.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Early on, the talk of payment was about ransom, and now the talk of payment has really shifted from ransom to a reward. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, what's the update on the family's reward? Because they're the ones who posted the big number.
Yeah, so there are some new stipulations regarding the reward now. But today, actually, Savannah Guthrie posted to her Instagram yet again, but this time reposting a previously posted video of her talking about the reward. Let's take a listen to that.
But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. All of the information about this reward and the details is in the caption below. You can call the 1-800-TIP line. You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
Now, Vinnie, the important thing to note here is that this $1 million will be paid in cash, and it can be paid to an anonymous tipster who comes forward with any information leading to actually finding Nancy or Nancy's return. Now, according to the New York Post, here's the stipulations regarding the reward. It says, if authorities are able to track down Nancy Guthrie based on the tip, the tipster can meet with the family at an agreed-upon neutral location, such as a post office, and claim the 7-figure prize. An ID is not required. All that's needed is a 7-digit PIN number associated with the tip. And I'm assuming, you know, once they give, you know, their tip, they'll assign them a number that only they will know. So they don't need an ID, but they'll have that number. But Vinnie, also according to the Post, the FBI says they've received around 1,500 new tips since the $1 million reward was announced by Savannah Guthrie.
All right, Cody Thomas, great work tonight. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour, and it's about the reward. Are the conditions of the family's reward unusual? This 7-digit PIN, the meeting at some place, a cash payment. Still with us, Chris McDonough and Steve Fisher. Steve, what are your thoughts here about what the Post is reporting on some of these conditions connected to the reward?
I think it's I almost see it as a ransom counteroffer, to be honest with you. You know, most people are, if they know something, they just happen to learn something and aren't involved with this, aren't going to mind going through the process of claiming the reward. What they're saying, I think what they're doing is they're speaking directly to the person or persons that took her. And, you know, the earlier ransom didn't go through. And I think there's a twist to it, because when she says, we got your message and we understand, you know, I still like know what that's about. But I think what they're saying is, OK, here, we're willing to pay $1 million. Just tell us where, you know, she is, and have somebody else come forward for you if you want. We won't ask for ID. And they're trying to, you know, lure the person in. And I don't think they're trying to trap them. I think that they have faith that if they pay it, it's worth $1 million to get the information, and that law enforcement will still make an arrest down the road. But I think that this is aimed directly. I think this is a way of essentially offering ransom again, just for that information.
Chris, what are your thoughts here?
You know, I think what's interesting about this, the fact that they're, you know, giving such a large amount into the public arena, but this is what I would call mirroring. What I mean by that is this, Vinny. Remember, the suspect in the Bitcoin ransom concept gave 3 types of amounts, right? $4, $6, and $8 million. It's a classic, you know, hostage negotiations technique to mirror back a payment plan. Okay, and that's essentially what's taking place here. The oddity in this, I don't think, is necessarily pointed directly at the suspect. I think it's pointed at somebody around him. So basically, they're taking a poke at the bear and saying, look, you don't even have to come forward and tell us who you are. However, we're willing to give you $1 million cash, or up to $1 million cash. So it's, you know, it's a really interesting approach on how this last piece of video has come out with Savannah.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, what I'm kind of getting here, Steve, from the family, and I know you work with so many families, here, just finding, or whether, and from the way they're speaking, and the words they're using, there's an acknowledgement that they believe there's a chance that she's not alive. But their number one concern is to actually bring her home is so much higher than catching the person responsible. And I've got to think most
totally
families
agree.
are that way. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, all the families I work with, they're all that way. They're like, listen, you know, and this is where some of the frustration comes in between families and law enforcement, because law enforcement you don't want to share information and stuff because they got to preserve the integrity of the case in case it goes to trial. And families are like, we're not thinking about a trial. Even if the family member is gone, we just want them back. Then we'll start talking about all that stuff. But law enforcement's always looking at it from a perspective of, you know, if we got to present a case to the DA's office. So, yeah, the family, listen, I haven't seen them make any appearances with law enforcement, and they haven't really done any joint statements. I think they're a little off on their own right now as far as what they want. Like, they're saying, listen, it's worth $1 million to us. Just give her to us, and then we'll let law enforcement deal with her trying to make an arrest. But they want her back, and I get that because they need that closure, you know.
Go ahead, Chris. I know you're about to jump in as well.
No, I just think, you know, that large amount, though, is going to open up a can of, you know, everybody calling kind of thing. And so the investigation could actually get overwhelmed with tips that actually are just a bunch of rabbit holes.
So as we sit here, and this, you know, the weekend, we're going to hit 4 weeks. I like to take the temperature every once in a while from folks who are in the business, who know how these things can turn out. 0 to 10 tonight on your level of optimism of Nancy being recovered. Not an arrest, but Nancy being recovered. 0 to 10. 10, it's a lock. 0, no chance. Chris, you go first.
You know, I wish I could say a 10, but I'm at a 3 that she'll be recovered.
And why is that? Why so low?
You know, the time frame here, the risk that the suspect has taken to medically take care of her, it's way too much risk for somebody this far down the line.
Steve, where are you 0 to 10 tonight?
I think I'm probably at about a 6, just because of the publicity of the case. So many eyeballs on it, and now with this, even though I'm not, I don't really believe in rewards. This is such a big figure. I would have, if you would have asked me this yesterday when it first came out, I would have said 8 or 9. But the fact that they didn't come forward in the first 24 hours and roll over on this person, it worries me. So it lowers it to probably 5 or 6. I thought the reward, if it was going to work, would have worked in the first 24 hours.
Yeah. I can't imagine what the family is going through at this time. Big thank you, Steve Fisher. Always great to have your insight. Chris McDonough, make sure you check out the Interview Room with Chris McDonough, available on YouTube. All right. I love that the family's now become very aggressive in looking for an answer. I think it makes sense, and it's what most of us would do. You know, I hear what law enforcement says, right? But at the end of the day, money can make a big difference when you're dealing with dirtbags. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.